Sorry, 1 second. Usually we just do presentations out of the Finder and have it like this, and then you just have your folders and you present it like that. But with the clicker that is not working. So it's super nice to be here. It's the first time for me to come to Russia, and it's super exciting. When I first received the email, I was thinking, oh yeah, great. But in the beginning of this year, we started to have this rule that every time we say yes to a conference, we ask that the gender balance of the speakers is given. We had like a lot of lectures where there's really only guys on stage, and we think that this is something that has to change. So nicely, actually the speakers are balanced, the jury is balanced. In reality, we had a really great day being the jury of the competition as well, but there was more men, which I think it just happened because somebody was sick and somebody only came like super early in the morning. I couldn't make it. But also here we see like there's a lot of space to improve, and also here there's a lot of space to improve. So Dinamo started by me and by Johannes, who is sitting here on my right. He couldn't make it to Moscow, but he's saying hello. We started the company somewhere like in 2013, 14, like very fluid. We don't really remember when it actually was, so at a later point we staged this kind of like founding photo. Whenever people ask for the company picture, we send. But Dinamo, also I have to say, is like way more people than just us. We are mostly the people that appear on stages like here. But there's way more people that help us to be what we are, and without that we could never do what we do. So this is actually our shyest person in the team. It's the house of Gustavo, who is our type engineer, who's living in Brazil. This is Erkin, who is one of our most talented designers here, working on the kerning of the typeface with his Xbox. This is Jakub, who is helping us with all the web development. This is Johannes talking about emo, taking a break. This is Selina, who is working with us for a while and did one of our first corporate typefaces with us. And here's Rob and Andre. Here is Sophie and Chilong. Chilong is doing a lot of the mastering, the technical work for us. And Felix, who designed the typeface with us, we released. Shilian, who worked with us on a lot of graphic design projects and is going to release a typeface with us. Elias, also doing type design work with us. Then here is Tina, wearing one of our prototypes for a hat that has an iPhone cord inside of the hat. So, because I always forget and lose my iPhone cables, and I think that would be the perfect way to carry them around. Here is Seb, on the day that he got married. Here is Rob, who is working with us as a type designer and an engineer, and an extremely talented developer as well. And then here is Maria and San Helen. Maria worked with us on a project where we extended Favorit, one of our typefaces, into Cyrillic, which I'm going to show you later. Yeah, here Lisa and Maria. Lisa is not here, right? I think she's also somehow like involved. I saw her picture on the website. Then here is Dan, the best looking man on the team. Here is Risto, who was interning with us. Then Vanessa, who is taking care of everything administrational, which is probably the most important person in our team. Louis, who's interning with me. Then here's Vladimir. Vladimir is the DevOps and takes care that all of the server work is done properly. He's actually from Moscow, but he lives in Berlin. And he's a crazy torrent downloader and always sends us like obscure PDFs and stuff. And here's Celine, who was an intern and helped us with some projects, studied in The Hague now. And here's Daniel, who is doing a lot of the variable font and motion stuff, who's also a really good skateboarder. And then, actually, two of the most important people is Larissa and Rosario from this graphic design studio, Casper Florian in Switzerland, that you maybe know. They also released a typeface with us, but most importantly, Larissa was the person that actually introduced Johannes and me to each other. So Johannes studied in Zurich, back there in the same class with Larissa, and I know Larissa from like a long time ago because she grew up in the same town as I did. And they were also like very early customers. So I think when we first finished our favorite font, they used it. And this is when I looked for pictures. This is the first picture of Johannes that I found. Johannes studied in Zurich at school, and he has these really great pictures. Like the first one is Rudolf, who was teaching typography to him. Then he worked with Norm, a graphic design studio that you maybe know as well for some time. This is where I studied in Switzerland, in Basel. This is the studio that we have in Berlin at the moment, and we share it with a graphic design studio that is called Node. It's operating between Germany and Oslo. And this is the garage in Basel that I just recently moved into. So I think now we're also like one of these companies that start in a garage. Over the years, we started really rock and roll and just did whatever we liked to do, and somehow like more and more found out how we can define that. And we have these 4 sectors. There's like the projects, which are commissions that come to us. We have the hardware, that is like everything that is not software, because we also like to do objects sometimes. And we have the standards, which is the kind of research department where we sometimes digitize old typefaces or create like smaller projects more in the kind of development area. And then of course we also have the type releases that we almost forgot. The first typeface that brought us together and somewhat like started Dinamo is called Grow, which is based on an old letter set. It's specimen that we found, and back then like first just like digitized. I found it and digitized it in Illustrator, which I cannot recommend to anybody being interested in type design. And then Johannes joined the team and said, hey, you cannot do that, take it to FontLab, was the program back then. And he said also all of these points have to lay on the same line, which before they didn't. And that's basically how we started our company. We went further, we completed the alphabet and realized there are certain letters that don't work, blah, blah, blah. Decided that we don't want to have lower cases, but only upper cases with different widths. Like whenever there's a repetition and there's a possible version that is narrow, we did that. There's a lot of funny ligatures that you can activate. Exactly, and that kind of like started for us to really take type design seriously. We had, because of my wife who's Brazilian, we had a kind of entry point to Gustavo, who is a student a graduate from the school in The Hague, and actually like a classmate of Ilya, who was here. And he was still living in Amsterdam at that time, and was open-hearted enough to help 2 people that didn't know much about type engineering. We at first had this idea that it would just be like the kind of three-dimensionally looking versions of the font, so you could basically combine these 3 levels with each other. But then Gustavo saw all of the individual outlines, and he said that with a bit of code you can actually start to combine all of them individually, and out of the sudden you have a family of like 63 different possible styles out of the same font. So in a way, the result is like super visual, and it's also a typeface that is quite hard to use because whatever you do, it always the result look a little bit the same. It's not really a success in our library, but somehow like it really opened a lot of doors, and also it opened like a kind of thinking about type design for us that is really important, I think, until today in what we do. That you don't just take the program and you say, okay, the program can do this and the program can do that, but that you actually have ideas first and then you more search for the software. Or sometimes you even have to develop it yourself in order to get the results that you want. Yeah, so these are all the combinations, some applications. There was even, it never went anywhere, but there was even a person at some point asking if there would be a grow in Cyrillic, and I think it's actually something written in German, but it's just in Cyrillics, so don't kill me for that. But if somebody is interested in ever like continuing this road, hit us up, it would be super nice. Then,
I'm not sure what we're looking at.
Tara, we have to think differently. Reconsider everything and start from scratch.
1, 2, 3, 4.
So the second project that I want to show, is it good with the sun? Is a typeface that we developed together with Felix. Felix is a friend of ours from Amsterdam that did this big film that we saw before as a kind of free project. I think he got one of the Dutch design grants and took some time off and shot the video. And there's this one sequence where the two characters kind of like play together this game with the shapes on like a drive to shape language. And a while after he came to us and he said, hey, I somehow realized out of these 10 shapes that I defined, you can actually make a lot of letters. Couldn't we make a font out of it? And then in the beginning, we just had this kind of like Tetris style thing that you would somehow like maybe hit the C for circle, or like, I don't know, the S for straight, and then if you hit it twice, then it would actually start to rotate. Really like how you know it from Tetris on the Game Boy. And he used that for a little bit, but I think it was like really laborious to design anything with it. So we started to really think of it as a typeface. And then we collected and we realized you can do, I don't know, like 20 different versions of an R, and you can do 50 different versions of an E, and so on. We got really lost and kind of like had to go back and see how we would make a typeface family out of it that makes sense. This is what we ended up with. We divided all of the forms into different categories, one being like only round forms, one only straight forms, and one being the kind of tilted italic shapes. And then again with Gustavo and a lot of scripts, we generated a typeface family that can activate and deactivate the grid, has like different weights, and you can see on your left, you can see basically all of the source files. So you have the UFOs in the bottom, which are the defined styles. And then you have all of the Python scripts, and then it creates you all of the possible OTFs again. This is one of the applications. It was later done. Then another project that we did, basically like maybe to say like all of the projects that I selected to show are projects that we did together with somebody else. So it's like always more than just Dinamo or just more than Johannes and I. And this one was for the Kunsthalle in Zurich, like one of the oldest independent art spaces in Switzerland, where Dan Soschach, a friend of ours, was appointed as the new graphic designer when the director changed, and then he invited us to join him, and together we designed a typeface, which was based on a source that we found in an old folder by Walter Kech. Walter Kech was the teacher of Adrian Frutiger in the Zurich school, and he developed this folder, created this folder for his students, in which he would explain a lot about how he thinks typefaces have to be designed. There's like one that is dating, I think, to like the beginning beginning of the 40s, which is like crazily looking like Helvetica and Univer, but really like a long time before. You can also see where Adrian Frutiger got his ideas, and also where a lot of the Helvetica is coming from. And we digitized that one and adapted it a little bit to be more readable. Dan started to use it. In the beginning it was really just pretty straightforward. We did a couple of tricks more on the graphic design level, but then in the second year when the program came and he realized how much content that he has to manage, he came back to us and said, hey, this really like it's so much. And we looked at all of the things together, and then out of the sudden I had this idea that actually when we push up all of the descenders and make all of these characters just go up, then you can set the lines really tight. You lose basically no space in between the lines. And also you create this result that is like super characteristic. It's a typeface that looks like a lot of other typefaces, but just like by pushing it up, you make it really recognizable. There's also, this is something I think we shouldn't do. There's a partnership with an art institution in Tiflis in Georgia, where I think like every 2 or 3 years, I think they organize an exhibition together in Tiflis. And he was also designing the poster for that, and then they said, hey, but we also have to make a poster in Georgia. So actually like somebody from there sent us a typeface that covers the Georgian alphabet. And I don't know why that is, but there's like very few Georgian typefaces. It's probably changing now slowly, but there was really like very few things to look at. And also like if you check the Georgian version for Helvetica and the one for Arial, they look completely different from each other. So it's like really hard to understand what is right and wrong. And in a real cowboy action, we just made a version as well that has no descenders. So basically that's the same as the Latin font as well. And I don't know if maybe somebody here is able to read Georgian. We heard from one person that knows somebody reading Georgian that is kind of like on the edge of still being readable. Okay. Yeah, then the next section is the Dinamo hardware. Quickly check the time. This is a branch that we started when Johannes was traveling to Seoul for the first time. And we have a lot of friends from Korea, because Johannes studied in the Netherlands and I lived there as well. And at the Rietveld, where Johannes was a student, there's a lot of exchange and international students. So we asked one of our friends from there to translate Dinamo to Hangul, and we made these patches, and then Johannes put one on his pullover and went there with like being labeled. And that somehow like led to something that we gave them. Of course, we gave them to our friends, and then other people started to ask an email and say, hey, can I buy it? And then all of a sudden we sold, I don't know, these 50 patches or whatever we made. And then somehow like became a bit of a thing on its own. And whenever we had the chance to do something, then we would somehow like do something next or something new that we thought was funny or exciting or interesting to do. So this is the first world tour sweater that we call it, where we put all of the places where we ever traveled, type related. So I think like on the next one we probably can also then add Moscow to it. And we first launched it when we were giving a lecture in Finland, no, in Norway. And we thought it would be nice to make it look a little bit like one of these Scandinavian kind of like goth rock, dark tour pullovers. This is a sun hat that we made one summer. And then this kind of became a little bit of a joke. Johannes, or started as a joke, but became a real joke. Johannes had this idea to make a t-shirt that is called Different Times. And there's like different times on it. So there's like one Times version that is produced by Monotype, and one that is from Adobe, and one is from whatever. And that somehow like really, like a lot of people started to wear it. Oh, I'm missing a slide. I'm sorry. So, yeah, well, we made like several iterations of it, and there's like one that we wanted to take to the art book fair in Los Angeles, that we wrote Spiritual Times, but then that was right before Trump was elected, and then it sounded like felt super stupid to do that, and then we changed it and made another one that is called Difficult Times. And And then after that, somehow like the Brian, the guy that is running Wood, this label from Copenhagen, got in touch and said that he really likes the T-shirt. And then we were brave enough to like just ask back if he would make one with us. So now, a while ago, we were able to release the first one that's really like printed properly, and also the fabric of the T-shirt is actually a little bit better. Then also this year we made a toothbrush with Kura box, which is kind of like super typical Swiss toothbrush that claims that they're the toothbrush that has the most hair on the brush, and therefore, of course, they're the best. And you can always buy them in the pharmacies, in the Swiss train stations. And whenever we travel, because Johannes lives in Berlin and I live in Bazele, we meet each other somewhere, and then usually one of us forgets a toothbrush. So whenever I think of it, then I just like buy one in the pharmacy before I leave. And we always had these toothbrushes. They come in really nice colors. And then at some point we thought, hey, maybe we should actually have our own toothbrushes from this brand. And then we called them, and they said, yeah, we can do it, but we have to make 800 toothbrushes. So now we have like 800 toothbrushes. The next project also is, actually, it's a continuation, it's still hardware. This was when we released Ginto, this typeface that was designed by Seth. We asked our friends from Hardworking, Good Looking to do an object to accompany the release, and unfortunately in the end it didn't really work out to time it, and it came out much later. But we basically just gave them the typeface and said, hey, do whatever you want to do with it. We want to have something that we can somehow like release with it. And they're half based in Manila, and they saw that in Manila you have these super nice street markets where all of the vendors actually like come to a place, and then you go there. So if you, for example, I think probably even with graphic design, if you need a flyer or a business card or something, you go to this market, and then the kind of printer designer person takes the job there on this market. Maybe he even does it in place, so maybe he takes it somewhere else and produces it, and then you can go and pick it up on the market a couple of days later. And they made these ex libris stamps there in the market where somebody really like out of wood with a knife cut Ginto and made like super beautiful ex libris and kind of address stamps that you can put into your books, to your library, or if you want to send letters or something. Then here's a project, meaning like a job that came to us. It's actually not completely true. It's a project that we did also together with people that we knew before. It's the artist collective Air that are based in London. And they were invited 2 or 3 years back in Amsterdam to do an installation during the Holland Festival together with the Stedelijk Museum. And they had this idea that they wanted to build houses on the field to talk about like the problems in the housing industry and how like prices go up and people cannot afford to live in certain places anymore, gentrification and so on. But they realized when we talked to a producer who could actually like build these houses that they would be so heavy that they would like sink into the grass of the field. So in the end we were only able to do like kind of blocks that would be arranged a little bit like architectural plans on the field. And all around the walls, so to say, there was like poetry or excerpts out of text that would somehow like talk about this topic. And we had to design a typeface that could actually be produced that way. So with a lot of research, in the end we found a concrete producer that could 3D print concrete. And actually like almost like if you do in school, like this kind of like script writing, print word by word into concrete. So we had a lot of back and forth and tests to see like what is stable and what do you do with like ascenders and descenders. So in the end we kind of like had a unique case script version. It was like really heavy. I think it was like 3 of these truckloads that I had to drive quite long to deliver them. It was really nice. Like you could see, I I didn't see it in real, it's a real picture, but on social media you can really follow it and see how people on nice sunny days will almost like move into these architectural like floor plans a little bit. Now this project I think is super nice to show here. It's a project that we did together with friends from Tallinn, from Estonia. It's friends of ours from Amsterdam, but they come from Estonia and now are living back there and run the graphic design department of the design academy in Tallinn. And they also do the graphic design for an art space, for a federal art space in Tallinn. And in Estonia they have this rule that like everything that is like public has to be both in Estonian and in Russian, because there's, I think from the Soviet times, still like so many people that just have Russian as their first language, but still being Estonian. So actually, when they first came and said, hey, we have this job and we want to use a typeface, because it was really new at that time, we didn't quite realize that that would also require covering Cyrillics. And in the first moment of desperation, or also like, how do you say, naivete, we thought that we just do that ourselves. I mean, we're type designers, so we can draw these shapes as well. We know the vocabulary of Favorit, we do it. And we also knew Marina from Conta's Type Foundry already, and we thought, okay, she's just going to feed back to us. And then we did it, and we sent it to her, and I'm going to give you a little bit of a walk through this PDF we received. Some like 46 pages of comments, things that we should change. And we're kind of like realizing how stupid that we are. That we actually try to do something that we cannot read and write, and that we don't work with somebody that can. And then we're able to actually give the job over to her, and together with her and Lisa, we were able over the next year to then like properly develop the Cyrillic version of Favorit. There's also, I think there's a lot of things that I don't understand, and maybe it's also nice if somebody's having this interest to have conversations about it later. Like different kind of interpretations of the same letters with different forms. I think like there's alternates that somehow change a little bit the vocabulary as we have it in Favorit as well, that out of the sudden maybe you have a G that has a leg, or you have an R that is round, and then you have a stylistic set that is straight. This is a picture, Larissa and finally also my brother came to Moscow this spring to the Deficit Art Fair, and they actually used it. But so far, I think it's the very only application that somebody really uses Cyrillics with. Then, I think I probably already did the last thing. I want to talk about this, what we do with variable fonts at the moment. I don't know how many of you know what a variable font is, or have worked with variable fonts or on variable fonts already. But technically it's a font format that is not really new, but somehow it came back because technology just improved a lot in the last 20 years, and out of the sudden it's something that actually designers, type designers and also graphic designers can use and apply today, while for the past 20 years it was something that required a lot of custom software and was only available to really like big publishing houses that could also pay for it. But technically, it just takes all of the styles that usually you install individually as OTFs and appear here in the menu like this, and you just put it all into one file, and then the computer can interpolate, can calculate the steps in between, and can have like all of the way. Without steps, so you can have something that is kind of like between regular and between medium, or you can also have something that is maybe between upright and between italic. Yeah, exactly, that's the slides for what I just. Now, of course, like the way that most of the typefaces are designed today, you anyway do this, and you really define the extremes, and every information in the middle is generated and then probably revised. But with the variable fonts, it's super interesting that actually you can also combine things or do stuff with the typeface that most likely wouldn't do if you just designed static fonts. And for this, we, together with Rob, we started to develop a website that is called Dinamo, which is it's a collection of more than this tool, but I thought I had the address somewhere. Yeah, here, it's dinamodarkroom.com, so for like people that find this interesting, you can use it there for free. You can just like enter the website and then basically drag and drop your typefaces into the browser, and then the website is checking what kind of axis your variable font has. So for example, what I showed before, if it's the weight axis going from like thin to black, or if it's the italic axis going from upright to italic, or the mono axis going from proportional to mono, you can automatically see it there, and then with the sliders you can basically animate it. This one is maybe one that's not too practical. This is one we made Sean, who is sharing the studio with Johannes in Berlin. He's Canadian, and because he's Canadian, he has to go to the town hall in Berlin every year and has to renew all of his papers. And now, for the first time, he got a paper that he could stay for longer. And I think he has like 5 years of time. So we made him a Canadian flag that becomes legal. And then I'm kind of through with my talk already. But last night, when I was terribly drunk, we talked about a lot of things, and I had the idea because actually, like Adelina, my lecture for some reason is 40 minutes, while most of the other people only had 20 minutes. I thought that actually Kim could also show a little bit of work. And in the morning when we all were like real again, she didn't dare completely, but I thought I still want to show a picture. And to end, the first one is her handle, and all of the other handles are super interesting female designers that I think should probably be here next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Fabien. Do you have any questions? Yeah. Question.
I think you can actually say it just like that because I hear it better if you're loud.
I want to ask you about
Yeah, we have. No, say, but say it a bit loud because I think otherwise I need to speak with you.
maybe perfectly. Sorry. Okay. I want to ask you about how to be a typographic designer and developer at the same time.
Can you say it again? Sorry.
How to be a typographic designer and developer at the same time, and how to become this guy. From what to start and what instruments, technologies are you using?
To be honest, I'm only a type designer. Like most of this technique here, I don't know how to do it. I know how it works, and I know who can make it work, but it's not me. Rob, who's working with us, he's an extremely talented type designer, and he also knows how to program websites, and he can also master typefaces. That's somebody with a skill set is amazing. But most of our team are really people that either do type design or do technical work, and then you work together on projects. But I don't really think, like, I'm not really a tech or a tool person. I don't really have the feeling that is what is making work good, or that is a skill set that you, of course it can be handy, but I think you have to be really interested in it, you have to be passionate about it. I think otherwise there's no point. And I, for example, if I start opening some files in Text Wrangler or whatever tool you would use to code, shut off, and I think like I get scared, and I thought there's no point in me learning that. Yeah. To make concepts.
When you create concepts, what you use?
Yeah. Hey, usually we just drink coffee and we talk until we have a good idea, and then we talk about it. Who do we get there, and how do we get there, and who do we need for that? But it's yeah, there's not really a lot of magic to it.
Okay.
Sorry for no better answer.
Okay, thank you very much, Fabian.